So the theme today is no blame, no shame. How might we have constructive conversations on the climate crisis? And I
Mm,
start out by saying that I had a realization fairly recently that even though the climate crisis is an issue that I really care about, it's not something that I often talk with people about. Um, so as I mentioned earlier in my professional life, I'm a consultant and a coach and a group facilitator. So when I'm facilitating a group of people, I can usually help them have a good conversation about challenging topics. That's what I'm trained to do. But I'm talking about something a little different here. When I'm in a social setting with family, friends, community members, when I'm not in a formal role, not leading something, but just a person with my own opinions and perspectives, I realized I get very shy about initiating a conversation on this topic. Yeah, so I'm curious if anyone else here has had that experience, not necessarily about climate change, but about anything. There are some things that are much easier to do when we're in a professional role, and yet it's different when we're a participant in a situation. So I'm seeing a couple of nods. And of course, it is different. When I'm a facilitator, my role is helping everyone else be heard. And usually I'm not supposed to be sharing my own perspectives on a topic. And it's actually quite a good role for a shy and introverted person like me to kind of hide behind, right? Like, oh, I just want to hear other people here. But when it's an informal setting, in an informal setting, and I'm not the facilitator, I realize it can be hard. How do I even start the conversation? Because something I've noticed is if I do try and start a conversation on this topic, it's really easy for people to get anxious or defensive or overwhelmed. Um, people might assume that I'm trying to lay a trip on them, tell them that they should be doing something that they are not doing. And people might think that or I might worry that they think that because I'm daring to bring up this topic, that I'm some kind of a self-righteous activist who is going to try and argue with them and convince them of something. When actually, what I'm really just trying to figure out is how can we have a constructive conversation on this thing that seems pretty significant? And the reason for this, my why, is because on some level, I really do think it's up to all of us. Like, I don't really believe that some mysterious they out there are going to solve it for us, that someone else is going to take care of it. So I don't have the answer. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just think it's hard to figure out what we might do if it so often feels like we can't even talk about it, right? And so to me, it seems like that would be the first step. So I'm working on figuring out how might we have constructive conversations on the climate crisis. And so this is a bit of a experiment, right? Can we collectively figure out how might we have constructive conversations on the climate crisis? And so maybe that's enough for now, for an initial frame.